Hey there everyone, my name's Andrew, and this is Canadian Starships. Welcome to update number 25 on the Enterprise E project. We are getting so close, and I'll tell you how close we're getting in just a moment. But first, if you are one of my subscribers, I want to thank you. Just reached 500 subscribers, which is absolutely amazing. And I'm actually going to have a bit of a goal for my next project that's on the schedule to get to 1,000 subscribers during that project. I'll tell you a little bit more about that maybe later if the project kit comes in the mail in the next couple of days. So thank you so much for subscribing. 500 subscribers, that is awesome. So I have just finished all of the painting on the Enterprise E project. And I mean, I've been working on the paint, I think, since January. And at the time of recording this, it's like May 3rd or so. So that's been quite a long painting go on this project. But honestly, it was worth every moment. The difference between the paint and the decal work is just night and day. I love the way the paint has turned out. I'm going to show that to you, but I did record one clip between updates that I want to show you. I really wanted to just get my head down and get that paint done, which is why there hasn't been any updates in the last little while. But I did film the masking of the tiger stripes, so I'm going to show that to you before I let you see the whole painted model. So it's actually just sitting behind me. You can't see it, but it's sitting behind me, and it's got its gloss coat on. So I'm going to cut to the past, where I show you the masking on the tiger striping on the nacelles. But before we get started, why not take a moment and click the subscribe button, and while you're here, click on that notification bell so you don't miss a single video. So what I've gone ahead and done all of the masking on the underside of the nacelle where it joins with the pylon here, and then I've done the outboard side on each side, and then there's a little detail that's mirrored up at the front here on the other side that I've done. So what I'm going to do now is bulk mask everything off and get the first area of gray on here. I've decided to break this down into manageable chunks. So yeah, I'm not going to do the detail that's going to go on the pylons here, and I'm not going to do the inboard side here. I'm going to deal with that after. It just gets to the point where the tape becomes unmanageable if you don't deal with it in some chunks. Give you a little bit of a side view here, and you can see all the tiger striping detail that's on the sides. And as much as possible during this process, I have referenced the studio images that I have. However, because of the lighting of the studio model when it was photographed outside in the sunlight, it's hard at times to see that pale detail. So some artistic license has been taken in the patterning, especially in this section here. This area up front here, I tried to copy directly from the model, and then this nice little detail on the back here and some of these, they are copied directly from the model. But I've had to kind of fill in the blanks where there hasn't been adequate reference material to go on. So I'm going to mask off everything else and get the light gray coat on these tiger stripes. Before I show you all the paintwork that I've done over the course of these last few months, I want to show you the tiger striping detail that I just showed you the masking of in the previous clip. You can see on the inboard side of the port nacelle all the very subtle tiger stripe details, and the key word there is subtle. I'm just going to change the focus and bring it in onto the starboard side here. And you can see all those little tiny details. They are symmetrical. Both nacelles on the design are symmetrical, one side to the other, which is kind of a nice little detail. Also, just in on the pylons is very faint, subtle paneling detail, which looking on the studio model at first, I didn't even notice until I really got looking at it. And so those are both top and bottom. Changing up the view here a little bit, you can see those very faint panel details along the nacelle and some of the tiger striping over on this nacelle over here. Again, subtle is the key word. And I'm just going to give you a quick overview on the paint scheme as a whole on this ship. You'll notice a few things are not complete. Namely, all the details on the RCS thrusters are not complete. I may have mentioned in the previous video that the little black details, although I painted those in this section here on the tops, the bottom section right there, that's too small and not molded well to be able to paint that detail in there. So I've actually created a small black decal that will go on top of there. Decals have their purposes, and one of the other purposes, things I'm going to be using decals on, is the front of the nacelle between the Buzzard collectors. So the area here, there is a kit provided decal that's going to go there. I just think that it was going to be much more neat and tidy than if I tried to paint that. One of the other things you may notice is there's no Shuttle Bay Door yet. I will be adding that once I get all the coats of clear on the decals and the windows filled. Windows being filled is actually the next thing I'm going to work on. And I did a little bit of a contest on a junk piece between microcrystal clear and canopy glue. And although I need to double check the results, I'm pretty sure that microcrystal clear has turned out the best on my test part. Now the big 4 windows, I'm trying to maneuver this on the big heavy bench vise here so that you can see, but those 4 windows right on the very front are already filled with clear resin, and they were masked off for the painting process. Now, when I do this kit again, and I've got 2 more on the schedule as commission builds over the next year or so, what I will likely do is fill the regular sized windows with resin before assembly and then mask those off, because my masking machine will hopefully be able to create masks that are the right size. Unless this turns out really well after I've put the microcrystal clear in. If it does, then I might just do it the same way. But there's definitely, you know, some opportunities to be able to do things a little bit differently than I did it the first time. But you can see some of that fine detail along the leading edge of the pylons, and there's loads of it on the nacelles there. There's also the RCS thrusters on the back of the nacelles, which are also going to get decal pieces for the black components on here. Something to note, the kit... okay, let's get in here. Are you going to focus for me, or do I have to switch to manual focus? I'm going to have to switch to manual if I want to show that to you. Or I can probably just go like this. That's going to be faster than switching modes. But you will see... Yeah, there we go. There's a detail. I'm going to grab a piece of paper so that I can focus there. Yep. There's a detail on there. The black, which is going to be in black right here, which is actually outside of the RCS thruster molded area, but all of this is part of the RCS thruster on the studio model. So if you're building this and you want to make it as close to the studio model as you can, just, you know, mask off this area so that it goes past this raised detail, and that'll be a little bit more accurate to the model. It's sketched out as the RCS thruster, just going about this far, but it includes this whole area. Just something for you to be aware of. There are a lot of inaccuracies on this kit that you wouldn't notice just by looking at it and working at it, unless you are going through the process of trying to match the paint scheme with the studio model. The whole model is much more narrow, compacted in that way than the studio model. So all of the shapes, so the triangular shapes here aren't as wide versus how long they are, so the pattern has to be squished in. The nacelles are just not quite right. The pylons are just not quite right. Everything is squished in towards the center this way. And you just have to take some creative license if you're painting this thing and trying to match it to the studio model so that it looks as close as you can get it, and the spirit of the design of the studio model is there. So that's what I've really gone for. So it's been clear coated with gloss coat. My next step is to fill all the windows. And I'm not sure that there's actually going to be much to show you once I fill all the windows, because if it's done properly, you probably won't notice that anything has filled the windows, but it'll make a big difference when it comes to lighting. Again, let me just get a bit of a closer look at some of these windows, because I'm really happy with how well those windows turned out when I cleaned them. So I think that they look really, really nice, and I'm anxious to see this whole thing lit up again. But it won't be lit until it's connected to the base, which is just sitting over here in case you haven't seen the base. It is right here. So until it's sitting on the base and connected to the control board, it will not be lit, because I'm not going to try to hook everything temporarily up to wires in the board and stuff until it's all ready to be mounted on the base, hooked up, wired, and turned on. So it's time to put the clear material in for the windows, and this is going to be micro crystal clear. I'm going to be using a toothpick to insert the micro crystal clear into the small window sections. Now, a couple of things about this. I did a test run of both the micro crystal clear and canopy glue just to see which one I thought would look best, and it turns out that the winner was the micro crystal clear. It goes nice and crystal clear, just as the name says, and it also seems to turn out a little flatter, a little nicer, a little more window-like. Now, when I'm done this, some of the windows might be a little concave in shape. They may not look quite so flat, so if I need to, I can always go over and add a little bit more micro crystal clear to the top of some of the windows if they look particularly troublesome, but I think that for the most part, they've turned out fairly well. All the windows on the entire ship have been filled in with the micro crystal clear. Now, I've got this sitting beside my Nova class vessel for a particular reason. We are now going to be moving on to the decals. Now, the decal sheet over here, I am not going to be using any of these decals up here. Any of these panel decals, they are garbage as far as I'm concerned. The only one I will probably use is these ones here for the lifeboats, and I will meticulously cut those out because I don't need any of this junk paneling. All of that has been painted on the ship. So what we're going to be focusing on we are going to be using these strips, and we're also going to be using all of the pennants, all of the lifeboats, the registries. We're also going to be using these tuning forks for the nacelles, because I figured that it would actually be better to use those decals and trying to paint that detail on there. So those are the decals that we're going to use. Also, I've got this little sheet of decals, and I'm not sure if the camera is going to really pick it up here. Yep. So these are decals that I printed when I was working on this right here. And you can see those on the phaser strip. Now, those details are present on the filming model, on the studio model. However, they are not included in the decal sheet. So, fortunately, when I did these little guys, which are not going to come into focus here, they do happen to be the right size for what I need on the phaser strips for this. So I don't know if this is going to be enough. If it's not, I can print more. That's not a problem. But there's also going to be other little greeblies here, there, and everywhere that are going to need to be added to the Enterprise, and things similar to, oh, the light's reflecting right where I want to show you. Let's see if I can just cover that a little bit. Yes, so see that panel detail just above the phaser strips, and then there's all kinds of other details like that on the spine of the Nova there. Those kind of small details are also present on the Enterprise E, but there are no decals provided for those. And there's also no decals provided for that in the A Creation aftermarket decals, if you're curious about that. So I will need to produce those for this Enterprise kit. And let me just turn on the lights here. There's the same kind of switch I'm going to be using. This one was done with a battery, and I can tell that the battery is starting to die because the inside lights, the interior lights on the saucer there, are flickering just a little bit, and that tells me that that the juice in the battery is starting to get low. The other lights it doesn't seem to phase them as much. You can see the 0402 SMDs that the running lights are, not the running lights, but the navigational lights are using. Those are the same LEDs that are going to be in this bad boy here. And I'm looking forward to turning this on and seeing all the lights with all the decals, all the paint, all of the clear parts installed, all the tape gone, all the photo etch in place on the engines. It's going to be pretty nice, and we are getting so very close. So I'm going to start working on the decals. I'm going to start with the kit decals and these ones that I already have printed. And then as I need to make additional ones for various locations on the ship, I will get into the computer program. I will do those up and get those on. But I'm going to start by getting these ones on now. And I will probably start with the bottom of the ship. So all the kit provided decals for the model on the underside of the ship are on. Now I've gone back through and I've examined a whole bunch of the pictures of the studio model, and I've created this supplemental decal kit. And actually I used the supplemental decals that I created for my Nova class ship as a basis for this and have modified them. So there are a ton, and I mean a ton, of little graphics here. Let me just bring in one of the photos of the studio model here, and I'm just going to expand it, well, zoom in a little bit. And this is provided in the kit, and it's paired with the transport emitters here, but there's these little red things here, the little black things here. There's a panel here. There's a panel up here. Also, these items on the phaser strips were not provided with the kit, so I've gone through and I've recreated those. There's another one of those little red ones, a couple of the black details, and so, oh, there's another little red panel. These are just, you know, all over the ship. And let me just bring in another picture here. You've got some panels here, what looks like a little bit of an airlock. You've got a little red thing. From this particular image especially, I have really tried to recreate these locations of every single item. There's a panel down here. There's this one that covers a window here. I wasn't able to get this one in because the pinstripes on the model, the kit provided pennant stripes here, are actually too wide to be able to fit anything in here. They're much wider than on the kit. So you'll see in a little video coming up that I've tried to reproduce these pretty much exactly as they appear. This is underneath the deflector dish, so I've recreated all of these details and tried to get them in on the ship where possible. And I'm just looking to see what other pictures I've got on the go here, but you get the idea. So all of these have been created to supplement the decal set and to get all those little details on. Just a few things to note: these pennant strips here, they go down the spine of the ship on the neck. Oops, I did not mean to move that. Let me put that back where that belongs. They go down the neck of the ship, and they're not present in the decal set. Same with these transporter emitters. I'll show you where those transporter emitters are on the ship in a little bit. They're actually right behind the deflector dish on the belly of the secondary hull, and they're missing. They're just not there. Kit provided. So I've added those, and these gray stripes down on the bottom here. I didn't realize this at first, but there's actually gray stripe around the rim of the saucer. Kind of like what you would expect to see in a movie era where they had stripes going around. It's a solid gray, and it's very subtle, but it's there. And I figured that a decal would be the best way for me to get as crisp and clear of a line pinstripe going around the edge of the saucer as possible. So yeah, just all these little tiny details on printed out onto decal paper, cut and put onto the ship. And I'm going to show you a little bit of a video tour of the bottom of the ship, showing all these details placed on the model. So here we see that video tour of all those tiny little decals that have gone on the ship. And as much as possible, they've been placed to match the studio model. You remember those images that you just saw. That's what I've used as a basis. Now, there aren't necessarily shots of both sides of the ship all the time, so in some of these areas, artistic license had to be taken because you might have a really good shot of the port side but not the starboard side, for example. Here's a really good look at those decals that are in the deflector dish housing there, and again, just tried to get those to match as close as possible. This is a side of the ship that we have some really good images of, and so I tried to match those decals as closely as I could. The decals that are on the warp nacelles were a little hard to see on the studio model just because of the daylight, the sun lighting that was on the model, but that's my best guess as to what they look at based on the images that we have. There's also some gray pinstripe on the back of the nacelles that you can just see peeking into frame there. There you get a good shot of it there. Again, I thought that was probably going to be best served with some decals printed. This side, we didn't really get a good shot of the little details, so I just kind of tried to make it, match in spirit what the starboard side looked like. And again, some of these panels in the trench, they're exactly taken from those studio model images. So with the decals on the bottom of the ship, both the provided ones in the kit and the ones I created myself, it is sitting behind me with a gloss coat to seal all those decals in, and that's going to be it for this update. We are getting so close to completion. I mean, I've got to get the decals on the top of the ship. I need to get the last of the photo etch painted and applied. So that is the grills for the impulse engines and the warp chiller grills as well. I also need to get the tail fin shuttle bay doors painted and a few maybe decal details on there, and then attached to the ship. Once that's all done, the ship itself is complete. Then it just needs to be put on the base, connected to the control board, and it will be a finished project. I am so excited to have this done soon, and I'm pretty sure that the next update will be the last update. My client is excited to be able to come pick it up. I'm not sure when that's going to happen. We do have some COVID restrictions. We are currently under a stay-home order, so you can't travel from province to province, and he needs to come from the next province over to pick it up. So I don't know when that's going to happen, but I know that he's excited to finally get a hold of his model. Now, I did mention earlier on that I have another commission build coming up on the schedule, and I was really hoping I'd be able to show that to you before I finished off recording this segment, but unfortunately it has not come in the mail yet. So I'm going to have to show that to you in the next update. But I did have something come into the shop that I think you're going to be really interested to see. This is not on the schedule right now. It could be if somebody wants to buy the project, but it's not on the schedule right now. Let me grab the top saucer piece here to show you what it is. Look at that. That is a big saucer. This is the 650 scale Enterprise E. This is the non-clear version. Now, there's pros and cons to the clear and the non-clear. The obvious con is that I'm going to have to drill out anything that I want to have light come through. So all the windows, ports, anything that needs light to come through, the impulse engines, that would need to be done. The pro, though, is that you don't get any of the light leak issues that you would normally get with something like this done in clear. So there's pros and cons to both. Again, it's not on the schedule, but it could be if somebody wanted to buy the project. I've got a cast-off top saucer from a 1400 to show you the scale difference here. There we go. There's the two. A bit of a difference in size, wouldn't you say? Yeah, this is going to be such a nice project to work on at some point down the road. And I think this is something like 42 inches long when it's fully done. So it's a big ship. Some really nice detail on it. Now, the bottom saucer part is really warped, and it's going to need some heat applied to it on a flat surface to get it to settle out flat again. This is actually a third-hand kit. I'm the third owner of this particular kit. So the bottom part, I've been assured that it should flatten out. If not, I should still be able to get a hold of another copy of the bottom piece. Also, one of the nacelle top pieces is really badly warped. No pun intended. It's just really badly warped, and I am actually getting a replacement of that part in the mail, which is really nice, because that would be quite the challenge to straighten out. But looking forward to this coming on the schedule at some point in the future. But who knows when that'll be. But that's going to be it for this update. I hope that you've really enjoyed it. If you did, make sure that you hit that like button. If you're new to my channel or you haven't done so yet, why not hit that subscribe button today? You'll make me very happy if you do. But for now, my name's Andrew, and this is Canadian Starships. Have a great day, everyone.